Yes, indeed, folks. Listen to Blue Please here on CircleBrit.com with myself, Total Biscuit. Someone asked me if I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm from Newcastle. I would be lynched. I don't even like football anyway. I don't give a damn. It doesn't have enough explosions in it, for one thing. Right, what have we got coming up? God, I'll tell you, it is bloody hot in this suit jacket, I'll tell you. But I'll look good for the audience. Oh, wait, I'm now incinerating. So suit jacket is coming off. Thank you very much. I don't care if it makes me look less professional. Yes, indeed. There you go. You have a striptease on the cam. That's as much as you're getting. It's for your own good, trust me. Right. So, let's talk a little bit about something else. We're going to talk about a thread that we broke. I love this. I love this kind of stuff. It's fantastic. Do I actually have... Yeah, this entire thread, basically, some of the trolls that post in there, they all deserve the title of... Imbecile of the week. There you go. Okay. Make it rain. What? What are you talking about, you gibbering idiot? Alright, so let's have a look at it, shall we? This thread is so dumb. If you want to check it out, the best way to do it is go to facebook.com/cynicalbrit. Even if you don't use Facebook, just go to Facebook and click on, it's the second one down, Cataclysm Threads. Please use Total Biscuit's rule that is on the forums. This got to 12 pages. Yeah. Now, the start of it was a fairly... I mean, I've got to say sorry to Clara, whoever Clara is, one of my viewers. Sorry for killing your thread, but really... Sadly, because people are dumb and can't understand the difference between the message and the messenger, they have this need, this desire to go on a rampage about someone who is flagrantly better than they are. You know, one of my biggest trolls in there that said I sucked is wandering around with an item level 219 mace and 232 welfare gear. And, like, claims he has some kind of machinima contract. The funny thing is he thinks he makes more than me. It's so cute! I wonder what exactly Machinima's policy is on hiring people that have items that are from, let's see, what would that be? A 219 item. That's what? 10-man Ulduar Flame Leviathan? Yeah, I guess they're just clamoring to get that kind of caliber on their channel, I'm sure. Now, anyway, whatever the case was, I apologize to Clara. Clara started off with this post, which was... Please use Total Biscuit's rule. Now, people are coining this as Total Biscuit's rule. I just think it's common sense. I don't think it's my rule at all. I'm sure someone as smarter than me has come up with this in the past. But whatever the case, the rule is this. When it comes to abilities that bosses have, the more obvious the ability, the more damage it should do. And the less obvious the ability, the less damage it should do. That means that something that says, oh god, don't stand in me, should actually kill you if you're dumb enough to stand in it. That's the rule. This is some of the complaints that I've had, especially with Deepholm and the Stone Core, was that didn't happen. I could stand in a massive great falling rock and not even take a quarter of my health in damage. It's just so ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. Why would you? Why? Why would you want that to happen? Now, of course, because trolls will be trolls, and I might add, yeah, I'm a troll. I'm just a lot better at it than they are. I've had tons more practice, for one thing. I'm a superior troll. It's what comes from years and years and years of getting better at your art. You know, everyone who gets into any kind of art, whether it be music, whether it be some kind of craft, pottery making, perhaps, whether it be endurance bike riding, everyone has to work at it to get better at it. And when it came to me, I worked at trolling for about 5 years. And as such, I'm a lot better at it than these guys on the WoW forums. So... these guys come along and whine about pretty much everything. Oh, it's so dumb. However, I'm not going to talk about the haters, because I don't care about the haters. When it comes to the haters saying, oh, well, I hate Total Biscuit, a big freaking deal. Oh, no, you hate some random guy on the internet you're never going to meet and actually doesn't even know you exist. Whee! How desperate can you be for attention to want to exclaim that? As I explained very, well, I wouldn't say succinctly, because that honestly would be a little bit arrogant, more arrogant than usual. The last post I made on Facebook was this. Several little known facts. Humor is subjective. We and I are not the same thing. And your individual opinion matters more to you than it does to anyone else. These are all universal truths. And yet people don't seem to really realize that. You know? They think that they represent multiple people as opposed to just themselves, which is pretty much BS, honestly. But hey, there you go. That's what happens. So, the one comment that I really wanted to make this entire section about was one of the dumbest freaking things I have read in a very long time. You know, this deserves Imbecile of the Year thus far. We're talking about beyond hell. You know, I'd go as far as to say we're on the level of Quran burning stupid here. You know, really, we are. And as I said to people on Twitter, you know, if that happened in the UK and they wanted to respond to that, well, it's easy for militant Muslims, really. They just have to look at the kind of things we care about. So, if you're going to burn a book that the British care about, for instance, as some kind of retaliation, then please, by all means, burn the Argos catalogue, because that seems to be the only thing Britain gives a damn about these days. That and bloody Twilight and Harry Potter. I despair for the state of humanity. Anyway, this one remark. It's only 6 words, and yet it encapsulates everything wrong, and I do mean everything, with a good chunk of the player base today. In fact, not just the player base, I'm talking about people that, anyone that communicates with people that make media, or that produces media themselves, or is a fanboy of some kind of media. So I'm going to broad stroke this one. Quote, "He's being critical. That isn't testing." I would like to let that linger in the air for just a moment. So we're going to have 10 seconds of silence, starting now. He's being critical, that isn't testing. Are you out of your bloody mind? Do you not understand the meaning of the word? You don't even know what critical means. That's the sad thing about it. It's the most ridiculous statement I've seen in ages. So, according to this, yeah, testing and criticism are not the same thing. I see. Right, so tell me, I'm sure some of you, I know some of my viewers have been software testers in the past. Some of them have been involved in Q&A. Maybe they could tell me. So, when you go up to a designer, when you get involved in the Q&A process and you're asked to actually test something and provide ways to make it work, do you critique it? Do you provide criticism? Or do you say, everything's cool, it's nice, here's a pat on the head and a cake? Because if you say that, you're bloody awful. You're probably the result, in fact. You're the reason that APB sucked. Well, honestly, that's not the case. I mean, a lot of people said that APB was bad, and they were right. You know, it was a bad game, sadly. As you know, I don't want to see real-time worlds shut down any more than anybody else, but at the end of the day, they released a bad game, they invested a lot of money in it, didn't listen to their beta testing community, and look what happened to them. They ignored criticism, and look what happened. Bye-bye, company. That sucks. It is bad for everyone concerned. And hell, I've got friends at Real-Time Worlds. I don't want them to shut down, but at the end of the day, they made the fatal mistake of believing what that was. That guy right there. Let me repeat that. Very important. Very important. He's being critical. That isn't testing. That's so wrong. So unbelievably wrong. Okay. The problem with criticism is that criticism has been warped. Yeah? The original definition of criticism, well, I'm sure we can find that by simply Googling it. Definition of criticism. Funnily enough, that also comes up with definition of critical thinking, which is what a lot of people really lack. You know what? I wish everyone in the world would do a year's worth of law degree. And not because it would teach them the law, because it would teach them how to critically think. That's one of the key things. That's one of the reasons I'm actually really glad I did law. I have no intention of ever going into law, and I actually despised a lot of the degree course. But what I did like about it is the fact that they told you how to critically think. They taught you, they educated you, they trained your mind so that you could critically analyze a situation from an objective standpoint and not from an emotional, idiotic one. Criticism. The act of criticizing. A critical comment or judgment. A practice of analyzing, classifying, interpreting, or evaluating literary or other artistic works. A critical article or essay. A critique. The investigation of the origin and history of literary documents and textual criticism. That is one of the major definitions. Now, bear in mind there are a lot of definitions for this. One of them is the act or an instance of making unfavorable or severe judgment or comment. Now, unfavorable or severe judgment or comment. Does that mean that it's bad? Well, it means that the comment that has been made is negative. Now, here's where the disconnect happens. The disconnect with some of these bleeding heart idiots is that they believe they have criticism and then they have bad, yeah? Basically, criticism and slagging off, as we like to call it in the UK. Slagging something off. Hating on something. You know, that's something the Americans use a lot. Hating on this. Hating on that. Bashing. Bashing is used as well. Slamming, you know, stuff like that. That indicates an element of malice. And they just connect that directly to criticism. They assume that criticism must be loaded with malice. And this is so very wrong. That's not what criticism is. It can be. I mean, if we say... Here's the thing. Yeah? If we took something like, say, Total Biscuit, you suck. Yeah? Is that criticism? In a loose sense of the word, yeah. But it doesn't fit into the other stuff. Because, like, we've got all these different definitions and sub-definitions. The practice of analysing, classifying, interpreting, or evaluating. You can say Total Biscuit, you suck is an evaluation, but it's not a very good one. It's a pretty bad one, honestly. It's like, I'm asked to critique a car, and I say the car is blue and sucks. What do you think the person asking me to critique the car is going to think at that point? It's like, that's a terrible criticism. It's no good. It's like, especially, the best thing about it is that what you've got in that sentence is you've got two good examples of bad criticism. One is a subjective personal opinion. And I'm talking about beyond, I don't like this movie. I'm talking about, oddly enough, the term that was used was objective, but the way that it was used was subjective. So that car is blue is an objective statement, right? But using that car is blue as a criticism, that's personal and subjective, because there is no objective standard whereby a blue car is bad. There is a personal standard of, I don't like blue cars, or I don't like blue wallpaper, or blue anything. That's subjective. And that's what people don't seem to understand. There's nothing necessarily wrong with being subjective. You can't be objective about everything. But what you can do is learn the difference between when objective and subjective criticism is worthwhile. The best thing about subjective criticism, when you do it right, is that you incorporate elements of objective fact and opinion. Like, as far as I'm concerned, games should be challenging is an objective standard, because it's established, yeah? That's how games have been for the last 30 years. Games have some element of challenge in one way or the other, and a game that is too easy serves no practical purpose. Games are competitive. Always they're competitive. Whether you be competing against the AI, the world that you're against. Say, even The Sims is competitive. Even The Sims. Because in The Sims, you're competing against a world that doesn't want you to succeed. It sounds so much like a terrible chick flick, doesn't it? It's like, she was a single mother. But they don't do it like that. They don't have the trailer voice, do they? They do it like, she was a single mother in downtown Manhattan, and the world was against her. That kind of thing. In The Sims, you are actually competing against the world. You are versus the world. You are versus the mechanics of the game. Things can go wrong, and you have to deal with them. You are competing to get the best possible sim house against the world. Everything is competitive. Everything. In some way. It's not the same level of competitiveness. You don't compare The Sims to Dota, but everything is competitive. Everything has to have a challenge. So in terms of objectivity, you can take that as an objective standard, as far as I'm concerned. The game must be challenging. And any criticism of this game should be less challenging is flying in the face of the established convention. Now, when it comes to providing beta feedback, and this is the point of this entire little rant, is that feedback isn't always a pat on the head and a cake. Sometimes it is, yeah? At the end of my Grim Batol video, I gave the spoken equivalent of a pat on the head and a cake to Blizzard. Because I said, Blizzard, this is awesome, please do more of it. But in that video, I also said, well, this doesn't work, and also the attitude that you've displayed in Wrath, that didn't work either. Because that was flying in the face of the concept of challenge. So I criticized them there. Does that mean I hate Blizzard? No, actually, it's quite the opposite. because I give a damn about this game, I want this game to be as good for as many people as possible. Even you guys that suck. Even you guys that hate on me. I want the game to be as good as possible for everybody. Even you. Which means I have to criticize. That's what every beta tester has to do. You know? I'm the most vocal about it because I happen to have the biggest platform. And all I can say is, this might sound really arrogant, sound like I'm tooting my own horn, but you should be thankful that it was me that got the biggest platform and not some idiot that can't discern the difference between one piece of dungeon content and another. That'll say, this is awesome, guys, everything's brilliant. No feedback whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, the people with platforms should be the ones giving the feedback. They have a responsibility to do that. I'm trying to live it up to it as best I can. It doesn't mean I'm the best tester. At all. I don't know who's good and who isn't. It also doesn't mean, more importantly, that I'm the best player. People equate wanting challenging content to you must have item level 277. It's funny, actually, I read that thread, and just as a test, I went to see the people that hated me and the people that actually liked me. The people that actually stood up and said, I like his attitude. You know who they were? They were the guys who had heroic ICC on farm. They were the guys who had heroic ICC gear. And the guy that really hated me, he was the guy with the 219 mace and the 232 welfare epics. That shows a disconnect between two elements of the community. I've never claimed to be the best player. I am an above average raider, and that is it. And you might think above average, that's arrogant. No, it isn't. That's not arrogant at all. Let me show you what an above average raider means. Let me find it. WoW Guild Rankings, wowprogress.com. Let's see if I can find the information here. Encounters, heroic, there we go. I have beaten... Let's see, where is it? I'm sure I can find a example here. This site isn't as good. Oh no, there we go. Can we go 10? There we go. So, I have beaten encounters that the majority of people have not beaten. That's the most important thing about it. That makes me an above average raider, but only just. Only just. And I've always been an above average raider. I've never been the best raider. At all. And it doesn't mean... This is the thing, you don't seem to understand about criticism and feedback. I don't have to want things because I am awesome and elite. People made the comment of, how dare you ask for harder content when you haven't beaten all the heroics? That's BS! You're talking about a small portion of the content as opposed to all the other stuff that you still have to do on a regular basis. It's like, if I haven't done Heroic Lich King, does that mean that I should never ask for buffs to normal ICC? That's BS. Challenging content is so important. So important. I may never reach it. Because I might not be good enough. But here's the thing. I understand that I'm not good enough. And I take ownership of that fact. I'm responsible for my own progress. And I don't want the progress of anybody else to be cheapened because I say, oh, well, I can't beat this boss, so Blizzard, please nerf. Please nerf. No. If I can't beat the boss, it's because I suck, and I should be better. Universal constant always applies to WoW and gaming and everything else in life, ladies and gentlemen. And I will hopefully wear this mantra on my sleeve until the day I die. And that mantra is 3 words. Be less terrible. That's all there is to it. Be less terrible. My name is Total Biscuit, and you're listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com. I'm going to play you a little bit of music, just a very short cut from the Arathi Highlands, and then something else. We'll come back with the Cataclysm Q&A. Get your questions into themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com. This is by Glenn Stafford. This is the Arathi Highlands. Enjoy.